ho, 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 ho. Merry Christmas! Merry Christmas!
He does exist.
It's that time of the year once again where we gather around the Hinkle tree.
The Hinkle tree. That's a good one.
Of this year, a year of more turmoil. We can find peace on earth. From the Grinch of Hobie Sound by way of Australia, Mr. Greg Norman and Live Golf. Not even Tiger Woods' Mac Daddy could put resolve to the conflict of the PGA Tour and professional golf. But I am Santa Claus, and I am joined on my panel this day by Elf Andy Hydorn.
I'm the tallest elf here.
like Will Ferrell.
Exactly.
I know him.
I
have the Buddy the Elf costume. I need to put that on. Can you give me a minute?
Brendan Elliott from Little Linksters and Boston Bob Baldessari. Gentlemen, Feliz Navidad.
Ho, ho, ho. Okay, so before we go any further, little trivia question. What golf course was the Hinkle tree on?
Inverness.
Yeah.
Lovely. No. How many other podcasters would know that?
How many other podcasters are dressing up as Santa Claus right now?
Well,
that might happen.
Probably a few, but none of those four you guys would know what the Hinkle tree is. So,
all right, wait a minute. I feel really conflicted because I kind of like Jon Rahm, but I'm going to go right there. We're going to get this out of the way. Santa has put him on the naughty list.
Yes, indeed.
I am very disappointed in Mr. Rahm. I respect the fact that he does something for the money and for his family and generational wealth, but I really feel like that one, like stepping in something from Prancer.
Okay, shall I lean in here?
I think this would be the moment that we go directly to your live report live from the North Pole, Andy Hydorn.
Yeah. Well, there's a social media account called Freezing Cold Takes, and they would have a field day with this one because they put a microphone in front of Rahm's face, as we've all seen by now, and he talks about how an extra 300 or 400 million isn't going to make a difference to him. Playing 3 rounds is not really golf, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he certainly did some backstepping here and made a move. And I don't know, I was warming up to Jon Rahm as a golfer and a person for the last several years, because when he first came out, I wasn't a fan. So it becomes easy to kind of turn back in that direction for me. And again, it's like anything else that we've talked about when it comes to live. It's one person. Does it change the landscape? Kind of, but at the end of the day, it's just one other guy. And I think it's too bad, but it's the first thing that Liv's done of significance in a while.
Bobby?
Well, first I feel out of uniform. I should have my Buddy the Elf costume on, which I wore for my Santa's Open. So next year, you're going to be my Santa in the tournament, by the way. Yeah.
By the way, I will be dressing up tomorrow bar hopping in New Hope if anybody's listening.
Oh, you're going to look like Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully I don't end up in jail like Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places.
So that's a good one. That's a good movie. Yeah, that was, I don't know, you sort of heard her coming down the road, more and more whispers about some big name, and then it was Rahm, and then I guess I wasn't overly shocked, and I thought, he was talking about, hey, what Sebi did for golf in Spain, and he wants to do this with this money, and I don't know if it sounds altruistic, but I guess everybody has a price, It went over the 300 or 400 million he talked about. So what did it end up being, 500?
Not
I
quite
think
sure.
four.
I
Before.
Let's call
didn't
it
see the
four.
exact number.
And
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if that ownership in the team really means much, but that was part of the package too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but now
Yeah.
that he's got Adrian Arnaud, things are looking up.
Saw that. And I'll leave the big reveal to Santa about who's back.
I was gonna say, Brendan, do not disclose the fact
Oh.
that we found Ogletree.
I don't want coal in my stocking, Santa. You can do that one.
I think I just did.
The biggest transaction in professional sports, you mean?
Yes, biggest move in sports in 2023.
Yep.
So the team golf thing, I'm going to just say, that was a different spin on it. He's always been a team golf kind of guy, liked it, what have you. And I could actually see, we've talked about this, team Adidas, team Callaway, team whatever. If he wants to have team España, okay, in that sense, I could have some fun with it, the whole live golf thing. But you can't come out and say you're going to play against the best players in the world, because if you take Brooks Koepka out of the mix, I'm just going to throw another one. This is DJ, clearly one of the top five, probably one of the top five players in the world, we would say, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you could debate it, right?
When now?
Well, that's the interesting point, Mr. Hydorn, is his finishes in 23, T146, T10 in the US Open, T55 at the PGA, and T48 at the Masters. So other than Brooks, who was up on the leaderboard? How did Liv prepare him? How is that going to help Jon Rahm? Other than 500 million is going to help Jon Rahm. Brendan?
I think these guys get too comfortable in well, one, the money, but two, like other than what we've seen from, you could put DJ in that category, but definitely from Koepka. These other guys are just, why would you practice? What's the motivation to keep your game up? There's nothing. However, I think with Rahm, with him having the ability to play in several majors for the next several years, the timing could have been good in that respect, and the timing could have been good as too with however things are going to play out. Maybe he knows more than we know about how things are going to play out with the tour, but he could sneak in where he's in a year or two playing back on the tour, and then he just had this big payday. So
I think Brendan, that's a really interesting way to look at it, and I've been thinking about it that way as well. And I really feel like he's gonna have the best of both worlds. He's not gonna be tied down to a full PGA Tour schedule. He's gonna be able to play his majors, and he's gonna be able to make his money on live.
Well, we talked about that with Cam Smith also. He makes the jump right after winning the Open Championship, and he's locked in for, well, lifetime there, basically until he's 60, and all the other majors for another 5 years. So he's taking a 5-year gamble, and he's hoping they'll figure it all out in the next 5 years.
And we saw this year that the Ryder Cup question doesn't matter if you play good enough. Brooks is the example of that. There's enough world ranking points too. I didn't write it down, but I looked at it, that if these guys finish high enough in those 4 events, they can kind of maintain fairly good standing.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Alan. I really am on the side of, like, we love, what's that?
Santa.
Sorry, Santa. We love Ryder Cups and Presidents Cups, and they don't all have to be kind of at the same level of intensity. But I mean, we talked about it a few weeks ago, looking forward to the Tiger Golf League, and like to me, Live would be great if it were just team stuff and if it were, 8 times a year. So I think there's a spot in the world of professional golf for Live. To me, the part that's really hard to swallow is them crafting this messaging around the individual part of Live Golf, which again, to me, Live Golf, the individual stuff is all but worthless except for the money.
Yep. 100% agree. And too, I might not have had as much of an issue with this whole concept if they just presented it as it truly is. It's fun, it's different, it's not serious. And then they've made it like they're this big league, whatever you want to call it, that can stand up to the PGA Tour. It's not. It's different. So let it be different. Let it be fun. Let it be exciting. But don't make it out that it's a serious thing like the PGA Tour and traditional and that type of thing.
I'm going to allow our resident historian to chime on that one, because I think that is right there is the key word. This is a game built on the history of and traditions of the game, and I'm all for change, or we still be playing with wooden shafts, but they're totally disrupted everything.
Mm-hmm.
And in some ways, I've said it before, they're the modern day Walter Hagen's out playing for exhibition.
Just fine.
Historian.
Oh, when Walter, the Hague, would drive up in his tuxedo.
Yeah.
In the fancy car.
Yeah.
And he loses the Wanamaker Trophy, the PGA Championship Trophy, somewhere in Chicago or Detroit one year.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. He's a wicked, wicked funny guy. Yeah, I had this conversation with somebody actually today, Alan. So you're sort of like get ESPN or something. Remember that movie, Mean Girls?
Mean Girls.
A lot of movie drops here.
Yep.
But yeah, there's like the game, the history of the game, either format, equipment, people. There's always been some disruptors along the way. I think it's pretty ironic because Brendan makes a really great point. Yet, as crazy and it's just crazy and bizarre as this is, it is still having a seismic, major effect on the tour. About Jay Monahan looking to. Now they want to revoke. They want Monahan to step down as commissioner. You've got the Wells Fargo. You've got Honda. Honda was already going to drop. You've got other major sponsors that are looking for a way out. You've got that one article that said now the tour wants to increase these purses. They're going to start to look at the tournament hosts, the tournament directors, and you have to get more money over to the players. So less money goes to charity. So I talked to somebody today that normally is a volunteer for a tour event that's in Louisville or a PGA Championship, and they're looking at that going, well, I would never volunteer again for a golf event in the tour because everything going on. So yeah, even though LIV's got some serious issues, it's still having an unbelievably incredible bad effect on the tour. More players are questioning what's going on. Lee Trevino said in an interview, nobody owns the tour. It's a nonprofit. He was really critical. He's scared about what's going on. This thing's having major, major ramifications, even though a lot of people look at it as a kind of a joke of a thing.
Yeah, but let's be real. Like, if they wanted to peacefully coexist with the PGA Tour in the landscape of professional golf, it would have never brought Greg Norman to the table.
Right.
I mean, like, that move in and of itself was an act of war, if you will.
Do you think if they got rid of him that they could reach some type of, I mean, I know that was apparently on the table, but do you think that if he went away today, do you think that they could find a pathway to unification, if they even want to have some type of unification? I think the players do.
Well,
Yeah.
He's been on our show before, Alex Maselli, great journalist. He wrote an article about how bad Monahan's done and all the missteps he's done, and going back to literally step one, day one, if you just would have had a phone call, and I said this before on our show here, I struggle to find out. I know the Norman issue. I've known that, we've all known that for decades, but even if it was under the guise of, oh, look, I made a phone call and I tried, I just think it frames things a lot different, at least early on. But Monahan's really made a lot of bad steps. And in the beginning, even if it was a 22-second phone call and it was F you,
At
it's
least
still
it's an
amazing.
attempt. Yeah. And that's always, you guys have been in business in this industry forever, but anybody in any business understands that, if you communicate, you can solve a lot of things. And I just don't think, like you said, Bobby, that this started off, it started off very poorly from the beginning, and it's spun out of control.
It would have been interesting. Yeah, I agree with Andy or Alan, whoever, or I'm sorry, Santa, Santa baby. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, Norman's the guy, he's going to stir the pot. He was put in that spot, but I just always thought how that could have backfired if Monahan took a different initiative on this thing. And again, it might have just been all BS, but who knows? That's water under the dam, under the fourth hole bridge where the ball goes cooking in.
Yeah, remember this too, that the characters involved were part of the problem as well, beyond Greg Norman. Like I forget what tournament it was. Sergio was searching for his ball.
Yep.
It was Wells Fargo, wasn't it?
In the penalty area.
Might have been, yeah.
Started cursing the rules official, saying he couldn't wait to leave. And then, jackass Phil with all the stupid shit that he was saying. It was combative from the start. And I am a huge supporter of Jay Monahan. And hindsight being 2020, is it possible that he made some missteps? Sure. But who is to really know what the kind of the adversary was in this whole thing and how strong it was? And so it's hard for me to pass judgment on him, after the fact. Yeah, it's easy to say you should have done this and you should have done that, but I have a hard time putting a whole lot of blame on Jay Monahan.
So
Right.
Andy, sorry, Brennan. Do you think that Brooks comes out this year again as a stone cold assassin, or was he just trying to prove something after full swing, after the split? Is he just like, hey, I made my mark, I'm still one of the best?
I think they all would like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna tell a funny story. So back in the day, I was a member at Haverhill Country Club up in Massachusetts, and there was this guy, Norman Tordugno, and Norman had a bag that says Dilligaff on it, right? And Dilligaff stands for, do I look like I give a bleep, right? And tell me that some of those players aren't that. Like Dustin Johnson, tell me he's not that. Like, he cashed out, he made his money. He if he's competitive, great. If he's not, great. I think there's a handful of people like that. But I think in the case of someone like Brooks has a real passion for the game and for his place in the game. And I think there's some others there like that as well. But there's a lot of Dilligaffs too.
Do you really think, Brennan, there's guys, any of the other ones that are there right now that care about their place in the game?
It's hard to say.
I can't think of a one.
I like Bryson, and I know people don't like Bryson, but I watch his YouTube channel, and he's gotten pretty proficient in putting out some good YouTube stuff. And you can tell that he still works hard at his game, and he talks about and mentions the accomplishments that he's had. I think he might be somebody that cares a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I can see that.
But he's like I watch, and I'm not a Sergio guy, but he had Sergio on, and they did a one club thing for 9 holes. Um, and as much as I don't like Sergio, I kind of miss like he's a personality, and there's a lot of those personalities, guys that we could Monday morning quarterback about, even the ones we don't like Patrick Reed or Sergio. It just kind of sucks that those guys aren't on the tour anymore. It really does. Love them or hate them.
Yeah, the whole thing sucks.
Yeah.
And it gets back, this is my whole beef with Liv, is you're competing against untethered money, right? So
Yep.
that part really sucks. And the fact that Liv exists, the fact that all those guys are not competing on a weekly basis on the PGA Tour, that sucks. It lessens the product.
Yep.
No, if you could roll that back, Alan, or roll back, or roll ball back. I'm not as good as you for these segues, but when you were talking about,
I see what you did there, trying to steal my thunder.
It's there for the taking.
I'm going to get coal in my sock.
Yeah.
I already said that Norman was the Grinch. Don't be the Grinch. Do we have rollback news? Is that what you're trying to say, Bobby?
Just commentary from everything I'm reading more and more on different social media forums, the usual out there. And, it's, I was reading something that was really interesting. And it came from sort of one of those letters to the editor type of thing on one of the emails. And, just seeing a lot of people out there that, and maybe it's after the fact as far as now the word's out and now it's there. And again, this is probably a little anecdotally, but the idea of like, hey, I don't care what you do to the golf ball. I hit at 180. If I hit at 175, I don't play by the rules. I literally want to go have fun. I want cold beer. I have enough golf balls because I find them on the side of the holes and I put them into play. And you just wonder how many millions of golfers are like that. I started thinking with this whole thing about the ball going further, and I wonder if a tour event could go to a setup that was from like 1975, and agronomically a golf course is so light years and universes away from 1975. The way the bunkers are right now, the bunkers are so manicured, it's a joke on the tour. To begin with, but the fairways are so firm. The fairway now is like the putting greens of years ago.
Yeah.
It's so firm. I mean, there's a lot of things that go into this. I know it's easy to look at the golf ball, but I mean, the agronomy and what you see on the tour, that they work 51 weeks a year for that 1 week, and they prime that course, and it's really artificial conditions to a lot of regard. I mean, I've never played in a tour event. I've walked out there. I've been at the championship, PGA Championship, different championships, walked the fairways. I mean, it's crazy. The conditions are so abnormally amazing. No wonder the ball is just rolling out and it goes so far. I mean, I just got to thinking, wouldn't it be interesting to have conditions to go back, roll the conditions back, not only the golf ball back.
I totally agree with where you're coming from there, because it's just become a synthetic environment, where
Good word. Yeah.
if things aren't perfect.
Uh-oh. Yeah, things aren't perfect, Andy. You froze.
Well, I was just going to say, I really appreciate him freezing in my honor for being here. I mean, it's warm down here from the North Pole. But Brendan,
Did I freeze?
You froze.
His thought, Brendan. Let me just say, I also appreciate you having a blizzard. I felt more at home here this week while we're on air.
So
Oh, Andy's back.
yeah, let me continue trying to make my point here. So when I was in the UK last year, we had the opportunity of playing some of the best golf courses in the world. Troon, Turnberry, Birkdale, Lytham, St. Anne's. I mean, it was awesome. Um, and the one thing that just struck me were the bunkers. Um, and to your point, Bob, like they have these cheap ass shitty wooden rakes with like kind of tines that are like 3 inches apart on the rake head, and basically people go in and they slap slap slap. That's how they rake the bunkers over there. So when your ball rolls in a bunker, you know it's wavy, it's uneven, it's like, but that's a bunker, right? And now, to your point, when you look at tour conditions and the bunkers aren't exactly perfect, the perfect type of sand, like everything is how they like it, they bitch about it, right? And
Exactly. And that's well, you and I grew up with, I used to say, isn't that a hazard? Is that not a hazard? Now a penalty area, right? I guess, but like that, it's supposed to be penal if you
Right.
go in there. But now you have players that say they aim for the bunker because they want to be in the high grass around the green. I mean, if you just let the bunkers go, I mean, there's so many things that could help the game of golf, but everybody looks at the tour. Yeah, I guess the National, but these course budgets could be a lot more manageable, cost
Yes.
effective for the golfer. My goodness, I mean, it's a penalty area. I mean, give me a break.
Bobby, that's funny you say it, because when Bryson won at Wingfoot, we had Kyle Peters on, and he was giving us the scoop from inside the ropes. Kyle Peters, tour caddy, by the way, guys. Anybody that's out there listening, and he was literally saying everybody's aiming to miss. They're going to aim to miss in the bunkers because they did the math, and he said that's about a half a stroke penalty as opposed to a stroke and a half penalty out of some of the deep rough that was at Wingfoot. And then there was Bryson that just hit everything past it at that time, but and gouged out a wedge. But yeah, you're 110% correct. I talked to a ball representative today who remained nameless to protect him, and he's just sitting there shaking his head going, this isn't going to solve the problem.
No.
All it's going to do is make all the ball manufacturers jump through all kinds of hoops to create, new lines and everything else.
yeah, that's bullshit. They're already there. They've been preparing for this. They already have prototypes. I mean, it's just a different spec that they're making their balls to, but the same things that make a Titleist ball different today is going to make than a Callaway or a Srixon or Bridgestone is going to make them different then too. So I think that's horseshit.
Well, I believe that it's because you have greater athletes swinging the clubs at harder speeds
Yep.
than ever before.
And they'll figure it a way. They'll figure out a way to continue to obliterate the golf course without, regardless of this change of the golf ball. It's not going to, the only people it's going to hurt are the amateurs that do follow the rules. That's the only people it's really going to hurt.
Yeah. I mean, again, like, are they obliterating the golf courses now? And this isn't about
Not
scoring.
really.
It's not
No.
about scoring. This is all about like slowing down the freight train of the ever expandable golf courses, right? And there's all these other things that we talk about that have to do with conditions and scoring and this and that and fitness and all that stuff. But let's just slow it down so that the golf courses can take a breath and not figure out how they have to add another 400 yards every 5 years.
I will say this. I brought up Bryson's channel before, and he's been with Rick Shields the last week or so doing a whole bunch of stuff between the two of them. And Rick Shields had Bryson play 3 holes with some gimmicky clubs, like those very super small headed irons and driver that's like the size of a golf ball.
Yeah.
Or the Hammer X. Everybody, the famous boom after you hit the Hammer X.
Yep.
Bryson shot 1 under for the 3 holes with these gimmicky clubs. So, that's a good point there, that the technology sure helps, but these guys are going to find a way to put the ball in the hole. That's what makes them good. The
Yeah.
the equipment does help, but that's not why these guys are good. It's because they're athletes and they're the best golfers on the planet.
And
Yep.
that's not going to change.
Brendan, did you make it over to the PNC?
Santa, I did not, because the weather looked like crap. But I put it on Facebook, and a lot of people applauded my decision to go pick my daughter up at the airport for her first Christmas coming home from school. So,
I think that's justifiable without question.
but man,
I'll put you back on the nice list.
I would have loved to have gone out Sunday, but I had to teach on Sunday. So, I'm surprised they got the round in. I really am on Saturday because it was bad down here. I think they picked up. I don't know if they said on the telecast how much rain they got there, but we had 4 inches at my course, so it rained pretty bad.
Inevitable question is, is little Mr. Woods too cocky?
Confident.
Yeah.
Anybody want to broach it? Anybody want to talk or just wave goodbye?
I'll start.
Yeah.
He maybe, but he's a 14-year-old kid who's got one of the best golfers ever to live as his father. And I think Tiger's doing everything right by Charlie. I just think Charlie's a typical 14-year-old kid. And he knows he's on TV and he thinks he has to be more than he has to be. I do think, and I know Andy doesn't agree with me, but I was very impressed with the progression that he's had the last couple years. The speed that he showed this year. Andy, you did make some great points in our chat that there's like he's too obsessed with being technically perfect, but that's all kids at that age. Like
Yeah,
all kids at that age.
I've never seen that before. I was just
Right.
commenting because he seemed like he was, kind of all jumbled up in his brain about his golf
Yep.
swing.
I agree.
And look, I don't have anything at all negative to say about Charlie. I was saying on the chat that, kind of there's a long way to go between where he's at and being
Yep.
a successful tour player. It doesn't happen automatically. So I was just kind of tempering expectations there, but I don't have an issue at all with how he acts on the golf course. At all. To your point, he's Tiger's kid, right?
Yep.
And he does a lot of things that Tiger does in terms of mannerisms and reactions and things like that. And you know what? I think that's all great. So I love
the other side of it is, then is he being held to unfair standards as a 14-year-old kid by
100%.
by
Yeah,
everybody?
by the
everybody.
media, by us.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. But we did that to Jack's kid.
Yeah, and Gary
Nicholas
Player's
II.
kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
and Johnny Miller's kid.
Stadler's kid.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them.
We just want that to happen. We want that next generation to, and that's the great thing about the PNC is all of our fathers played golf, and I'm sure Bobby's swing looks a lot like his dad's swing. I know I swing a lot like my father, and that's the cool part to me about the PNC is seeing the similarities in the kids and the parents.
I don't swing like my father.
I was gonna say, I'm thankful I don't swing like my father.
And I have no problem saying that because a couple of weeks ago down in Thanksgiving, my dad wanted to listen to our podcast. He listened to about like a minute and a half and he shut it off because he was bored. So he's not going to hear anything about this.
I thought it was interesting that leaderboard it's all the quote unquote older guys, the old, I mean, the first 6, 7, 8 names, and then longer wins. I just thought that was really fascinating. I mean, obviously those guys still have game, they're playing Champions Tour and all that, but that was pretty interesting.
I think it's because the kids will be older. I think the kids are more mature in
Yeah.
those cases.
You know,
And the kids are really kind of the major variable in that tournament, you know.
Yeah.
yeah, just speaking of this, father-son thing, especially for me, and I want to be careful I word this, like, yeah, my dad wasn't on the tour. We never played in the PNC and all that, but me growing up at a private club, my dad being the PGA head pro, two different places, Florida and Massachusetts. For me, it was a little bit like walking on eggshells. I had to be perfect all the time. I felt with etiquette, politeness, playing the course. Like I always felt everybody's watching me. And I don't know if those kids are it's not a really good analogy or, I don't know, something like that. But
No, but
I
it
think
is
of that.
though.
Well, I
It
think of
is.
that when I'm watching that and going, I wouldn't do half of the stuff they do. And I know it's generationally way, way different, but I finished around one time, came in and my dad would go, what did you do on 13? Were you, the word gets around the club type of thing. So, I have empathy to some degree about like living in the fishbowl at the private club. Everybody's looking at you. That was real to me growing up.
Well, that's why I love what Harrington had to say. He
Yeah,
says it
that was
makes them soft when they grow up in the country clubs. But his message, what he said was right. I mean, there's just, and I see it as a coach of kids that there's just too many parents still, and we've tried to message this for a decade probably. Um, that the parents just don't understand that this is.
B, why don't you just recap though? Because I'm not sure everybody heard. It was a great message that Harrington passed along.
Well, he just said the one line in there that I loved more than anything was, you can't be good at this game without loving the game first. And I see that with so many kids where the parents push, 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 and then they lose love of the game. And that's the most heartbreaking thing for me, is seeing a kid who's really talented that stops playing or giving a shit because they got pushed too hard. You can't do that. Who's going to spend, 4 or 5 hours a day practicing if they don't love the game? That's insanity.
I'm not saying you're wrong because you have way more experience at this than I do. But I kind of wonder that the parent effect, I don't know, sometimes I think it may be kind of benign. Like some parents push, some parents don't. But I think the love for the game comes from the kid. And you can't give it to them and you can't take it away.
I'll give you something roundabout of what you're saying, Andy. There are some really good parents out there that do everything they're supposed to, but the kid builds up the expectations. Like they want to please dad, like especially if the dad's a single digit handicapper or he played competitively. The dad could be doing it everything the way they're supposed to as a parent and being a fan of the kid and not pushing them. But the kid will build that up in his head anyways about, I want to do this for dad and mom. And that's almost as bad as, a pushy parent.
Yeah.
So just to finish up this topic, then. So my text in our little group about when I was on number 13, it says, "I hate effing golf." End of transmission. That's not good.
But
Yeah.
you don't, none of us do.
I did at that moment.
you just need the beverage. You need the beverage cart. You just need the beverage cart.
At that moment I did, and I felt it, and it was real.
It was. I embraced my feelings.
Yeah.
How many times have we all said we're gonna quit?
Never.
Okay.
I never, no.
No? Okay. I have.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. We're gonna go to the Heat Miser. Okay. We're gonna bring up the Heat Miser. Andy's gonna be on the hot seat this time, and I'm gonna conclude with one other thing before we go to the 19th hole. So, Bobby, I'm
Yep.
Mr. Heat Miser. I'm Mr. That's a reference to Never mind.
Classic.
Never mind.
That's a classic.
All right, Bobby, it's all you. On the hot seat, Andy Hydorn.
You want
I'll
me to
do it.
take it away? All right. Brendan and I, we'll.
Oh, you're
we'll
tag
double-
teaming it. You're tag
You
teaming.
want you want odds or evens, Bobby?
I'll go on.
All right.
Okay, you ready, Mr. Hydorn?
I am ready.
What is your lowest 18-hole score in a competitive round of golf?
65.
Did you
All
beat me
right.
when you shot that?
Most likely.
And
Probably.
Andy, what are your three favorite golf courses that you've played?
I can't believe I didn't even prepare myself for these questions since I wrote them. I would say Marion is definitely my favorite. I would say Pebble Beach is also up there. And I'm going to throw a little curveball and say Saucon Valley Old Course.
Ooh,
Nice.
two nice PA shout outs. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. What are the three courses that you have not played that you would like to play?
Augusta, Shinnecock, and Cypress Point.
That was easy.
Right on the tip of your tongue.
Three best golfers of all time in no particular order.
So Jack and Tiger. And I would say the third one, I'm going to say Sam Snead.
I like that.
Nice. What is the best part of your wonderful golf game?
Putting.
It's been putting.
What skill is the most important to playing good golf?
I think having club face control. Having the innate ability to understand where the club face is. And, I think as we all play, we make these split-second adjustments in the golf swing, and it's all centered around, your awareness and control of the club face.
Lovely, like that. Who's your favorite golfer, past or present? Can't pick me.
Okay, so I'll say Alan Depew then.
Santa.
My favorite golfer of all time, I'll give you a past and a present, is Jack Nicklaus and Rory.
Interesting.
Give us a quick description of the best shot that you've ever hit. Time, place, situation.
Okay, so every year I go up to New Hampshire. Now it's in Vermont, and play in the Tommy Keene, which is a 4-ball match play tournament up in used to be at Hanover Country Club in New Hampshire at Dartmouth College. So we're in the finals. We get to the finals. We're one down on the 17th hole. 17th hole is a par 5. I got to set the scenario here because this is important to the shot. So the guys we're playing, one of the guys hits it on the front fringe in 2. We're one down. It's looking pretty bleak for us. I'm 95 yards in, blind shot. You can only see half the flagstick. There's 40 golf carts circling the back of the green, and I hit a little knockdown wedge. It lands behind the hole, starts spinning back, and you can hear the crowd get loud, get louder, and explode because the ball goes in the hole.
Whoa.
So I made the eagle. We got to 18, one down, and ended up losing. But all things considered, that was definitely the best shot I've ever hit.
That is awesome. Let's see. My phone just went crazy.
Want me to get it?
What do you cherish most about the game of golf?
Honestly, the relationships that
Mhm.
I've made over the years, it's just, I mean, like I look at these faces here and it's just the amount of quality people and quality relationships that I've made over the years is by far the most rewarding thing about the game of golf.
In the 19th hole, how many aces?
3. And I had a little 34-year hiatus between number 2 and number 3 that I just ended this year. So
Nice.
very happy about
I
that.
want to throw out a bonus question.
Oh, you might as well.
So we constantly ask, what our favorite 3 are. 9 times out of 10, they're world renowned, they're this and everything else. What's your favorite? Let's give a shout out to the grassroots guys in the munis and the daily fees. What's your favorite daily fee or muni you've ever played?
So I'm going to throw out a few of them. So and one of them's not there anymore, another Pennsylvania golf course, but the Hershey Park,
Oh my God, that was a good crack.
great golf course.
Yeah.
We used to have the state high school tournament there. So that's an awesome golf course. And George Wright in Boston, Mass is another phenomenal track. And I'm going to throw out Gus Wortham here in Houston as well. That's a really fun, cool municipal golf course to play.
Love it. Love it. So so I'm going to transition here. So something that's near and dear to my heart as Santa Claus is for years dating back as far as when we were on the radio show, was a gift guide for the golf consumer. So I'm going to just quickly go around just to shout out for our own little historical perspective. What are your gifts, your go-to golf gifts? It's actually even still in the box. Kent wool socks right here. And I may or may not have purchased myself a Titleist camo knit toque, as they call it, when I was out shopping for everybody else. Brendan, what's your go-to gift for recommendation this year?
Golf gift recommendation
Yep.
for
For
anybody?
anybody.
I tell you what, I've used several different radars for coaching and for personal use. And this Rapsodo, the new one, the MLM2 Pro, is really, really good. And they just did an update. They had a press release that just went out on it. You just can't, for $6.99, it's head and shoulders above anything else that I've used. And then you throw the price point in. And obviously you could spend 25 grand on a TrackMan or something, but that's just not feasible for most consumers unless you're Jon Rahm. But I really like this Rapsodo, so give that a look. That's definitely a good thing.
Bobby, around the horn here.
All right, I'm going to go with give your favorite golfer a gift certificate, buy them what's called a playing lesson with your local LPGA or PGA Pro, and go on the golf course and have somebody remind you certain things maybe about pace of play, certainly etiquette of the golf course, ways to play the golf course better, tees you should play from. A lot of people get wrapped up in only staying on the lesson tee or the range. Do more coaching instruction on the golf course, you'll be a better player.
Mr. Hydorn.
So I would say that as much as we all love golf, we all love to sit down and have a little cocktail at the end of a round of golf. And there's nothing better to mix your spirit with than a great Q mixer.
I'll be right back.
Ginger beer, tonic water, you name it. We got the best stuff, and it makes for the best cocktails and the best fellowship. So that's my recommendation for a great golf gift.
Well, if you never need anybody to read an ad read on that, I can try to. Final thoughts. Final thoughts. 18th green.
Who's up?
You.
Oh, me. Okay. final thought is, even going back 2 weeks, the team competition that Grant Thornton,
Yeah.
I hope that's the beginning of, I think I talked about it before. More I've been thinking about it. I think it was fantastic to see the PGA and the LPGA players out there. I sure wish there were more of them. They kept that field limited. But I think, things like that are good and healthy for the game. And when both players are together like that, the female, the male. The last one they had was 1999 with John Daly and Laura Davies. So it was a long time between that. So, and then just because you brought it up before, I'm going to say this again. I won't go into detail I did before, but the municipal golf courses out there, I really truly wish more PGA sections, more places would have their championships at those courses. I'm glad to talk offline. Anybody for like 2 hours to explain exactly what I'm talking about, but they do get forgotten. And there's certainly wonderful, nice courses out there, but those municipal courses are the lifeblood of the game of golf. Is millions of people learn and get into the game that way across every socioeconomic, everything out there. So yeah, it'd just be nice to see. I wish there was a US Open on like a true municipal track. I mean, that would be pretty cool.
BE.
I got 2 ones. First, kind of off the heels of what Bobby was saying about the Grant Thornton, the tournament they had in Australia that Jan Stevenson talked about when she was on the show. That was pretty cool to see too, where they had the different divisions. They had the all abilities and then the females and the men. Again, if we could do more of that stuff, that would be fantastic for the game. And then the other thing is off the heels of camaraderie and friendship, Andy's answer to what the best part of the game is. I every time I'm out there giving lessons, I'm like those old guys that get to the first tee an hour early. So I sit there waiting for my first student in the cart, and I just look around the golf course and all the activity that's going on, and it's just so cool the relationships that are created on a golf course, and even the people that you don't connect with, but you give a little nod to or say hello to, that are there all the time. I mean, all that stuff is just the coolest part of the game, without question.
That's
Andy.
awesome.
Love that.
So I'm going to change my hot seat answer to my all-time favorite golfer is Will McGee. I
Yes.
absolutely love everything about that kid. I love everything about that family.
Yep.
I think if anyone had the opportunity to watch the Annika special they did on the Golf Channel, it got pretty in depth about her personal life and how Mike McGee came along. And there's just so much love in that family, and it shines like a star. And that kid is the most awesome kid.
Yep.
I just think he is. I just love it. He was out there, he and his mom were crying tears of joy. I mean, like, if that's not something that melts your heart, then, you're a Grinch. So I just love Will McGee. He's my new favorite golfer of all time.
Mine is a couple little things. One is I'm just truly continually amazed at Bernard Langer. That he just continues to win, and he works so hard still at the game for the love of the game. And kudos to I know it's not some big major championship, but it was fun to see Bernard win once again. And I'm going to echo for the third time, just as you gather around. I joked about the Hinkle tree, the Christmas tree, whatever you gather around, you're going to be gathering around with family and friends. I'm looking at 3 great ones. We miss our little cadet Small if he's listening this far into our into this. He's our little elf. So we miss you, Christian. But these are the reasons we do the show. These are the reasons that we are in the business, and that's all I got. And at this point, I'm just gonna have a Ghirardelli chocolate mint peppermint bark and enjoy my holiday. So that's all I got.
Merry Christmas,
Merry
everyone.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas, everyone.